All right. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is our elections for chair and vice chair. So we're going to do that right away. So this is our chair and vice chair positions for 2021. So we'll start with the election of the chair.
Can I actually comment and do a little preamble before we get into that?
Sure, why not?
Okay, good. I've been giving a little bit of thought to this, and actually I had a dialogue with Bill last night about this, and I'm really looking at succession. In the last year, I've lost a lot of people. I've seen a lot of things happen, and on committees and boards, I'm constantly looking for smooth transitions, orderly transitions. So I'm looking for people that have experience that can carry on. I think, Bill, you even commented to that as well. What I want to say is that I have certainly experience as vice chair. Bill has experience as chair. If there were to be anybody who really wanted my position, I would be willing to step aside. I'm more than willing to consider going on, but I'm also thinking as well about, Bill, I hope you wouldn't be offended, but I am thinking about chair positions as well. So when we get into the nominations, you might see that I might make a different nomination, but would be willing to sacrifice my position to you or to somebody else if it was of interest. Anyway, I wanted to put that out there. So now I'm prepared to do whatever I have to do. So yes.
Great, thanks, Jim. Okay, so we'll start with the chair election. So I'd like to call for nominations for the position of chair for the Municipal Heritage Committee. So are there any nominations for this position?
I would nominate Athol.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for the position of chair?
Well, I can't nominate myself, so.
I'll nominate you, Bill.
Okay. Sorry, we have to do this again. Are there any other nominations for the position of chair?
Did you hear me, okay. Bill?
I did, yeah. So we have two nominations for chair. So that would be Athol and Bill. So Athol nominated by Jim and Bill nominated by Anne. So we don't usually have to do this. So what we will do is we'll get into a voting situation. Is everybody comfortable with using a Zoom poll?
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
Either.
Sorry, Rob, what were you gonna say?
He's muted.
Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I guess you didn't catch me nominate Jim. I think that he would be appropriate for the chair's position.
Okay. All right. So
we have a bidding war here. Is this?
There's a bidding war for the chair position.
Bidding war, yeah.
Not that Bill isn't doing an excellent
I've never
job.
been in this situation before. This is a first. Okay, go for it.
This is a first. This doesn't usually happen with our committee. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I think I can do this from here. There's a poll that we can use so people aren't, raising their hands about who they want for the committee chair. So what will happen is a little poll will come up on your screen with Athol, Bill, and Jim, and you can click who you want, and then it's all anonymous. And
I wouldn't know how to do this.
We're gonna try it. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to hand raising.
All right.
Let's see if I can figure out how to do it. That's always the participants. Okay. Well, maybe I can't do it either. I think you might just have to raise your hands. Nope, we're doing the low-tech version. Sorry about that.
Can I actually ahead of that just make it more simple? I'm going to respectfully decline the vote.
Okay.
We've got capable candidates. I feel that are better suited for this than me. So. Sorry.
Well, why don't I just sign off and come back again?
Pardon?
Why don't Athol and I just sign off and then zoom back in again?
There's
Sure.
an idea.
That's a good idea. Okay, we'll
Okay.
just, so you can
So do you-
leave the
Can
virtual.
you cut us off and then we come back in 5 minutes or something?
Um,
Turn your screen off, maybe your camera.
There's
I
a
got-
thing here called leave. Do we?
yeah,
click
just
that?
hit leave in the bottom. I can't kick you out.
Leave. Where the heck is leave?
Bottom right hand, Bill. If you pull your cursor
Leave,
down.
okay. We'll come back in what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Let's say 5 minutes. It's not going to take 10
Minutes.
minutes. There's only 8 people. Okay, Bill's gone.
Are we allowed to speak to this, to our nomination as well, or our vote?
Yeah, we'll just make it quick. So Jim, if you want to give a brief overview for Athol, and Anne, if you want to give a brief overview for Bill, and then people can vote.
Well, yeah, just extensive committee background, and I've seen this where sometimes you have a void. I've lost a lot of people in the last year, which has created some voids in other things I've been doing, business included. And I think it'd be good to have someone else with some experience in the chair position. I thought that if Athol had a year, we could see what he could do. I've Googled him. I don't want to creep you out there, Athol, you know, or creep him out, but he is
Hear
highly
you.
credentialed. He has chaired before Newmarket during a major change there that affected heritage. He's governor. I understand he's a Governor General Award winner from what I was, some major award too.
Lieutenant
thought
Governor's Heritage Award.
Pardon?
Lieutenant Governor's Heritage Award.
Lieutenant Governor, sorry. Anyway, I thought that it wouldn't hurt for a year just to try someone else. And that's what I was alluding to, is if Bill still wanted to stay on, I don't want to lose Bill from the board or from the committee because he's vital, he's legal, he's a voice of calm. You know, Athol is a man of action as well too. And I'm thinking going forward, that might even help a little bit as well. I was prepared to step aside in my position and let Bill have mine if that were to be a consideration. That's not to influence you. I just want to know. A lot of what I can do, I would stay on as vice chair because of the downtown revitalization, 2 more years, which affects heritage. But as far as what I do, that I would open it up to either one of them. Sorry. And
I
thank
thought you
you,
were
Rob. I
hinting
appreciate.
to,
Pardon
I
me?
thought you were hinting to be the chair.
No,
My
no, sir,
mistake.
not at all. I had nominated Athol. I think he's better qualified than me, but I do very much appreciate the nomination. You have no idea how much that means.
Athol's a fine choice as well.
I
This
want
is
the
Bill.
session. If one of us leaves, I'm looking at who we have. I don't know who's coming on board in terms of the next 4 entities or 3 entities or how many it is or what their skill set is. I want consistency going forward with the volume and kind of things coming towards us. And that's simply all it is. I love Bill to death. There's no personalities here. I'm just looking at skill set. Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute, Emily.
Sorry, I don't usually forget to turn my mute off. And do you want to give a brief overview for your nomination of Bill?
I just find in the time that I've been on the committee for the last couple of years that he does a really good job of keeping the meeting moving and keeping everybody pulled together. I think Athol could do a good job too. I'm just wondering if perhaps Bill has the experience for this committee that give Athol a little bit of time on the committee before we have him leading the committee. That's just my thought.
Great, thanks, Anne. All right, I think what we'll do is we'll vote. We'll have to ask Ron separately. Ron, can you unmute? I think you have to press *6 to unmute on. Oh, sorry, Athol.
Oh, okay, there it is. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I was
Oh, good, we're back.
unmuted all this time. I couldn't say anything anyway. So
Oh, Athol and Bill, we haven't voted yet. We haven't got to it. If you want to leave again, sorry. Thanks.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. No problem.
Oh, good.
Thanks.
Okay, fine. Good.
Okay, great.
No.
So let's just do a quick vote, and I'm sure Athol and Bill will join us again in a couple of minutes. So let's first vote for Athol. So who would like Athol to be the chair of the committee for 2021?
I think that's a great idea. Not
Okay.
that Bill isn't doing a fine job.
And who would like Bill to be the chair of the committee? Okay,
I'll put my name in for Bill. Like I said, this is a hard one. Like Athol, he's really outstanding. Like I found him, I'm pretty impressed with Athol. I think maybe in another year, but it's a hard one here. But I'll put my name down for Bill for one more year.
okay, thanks, Ron.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thanks, everybody. So the vote stands, so 3 for Athol and 2 for Bill. So that's the chair position for Athol. And we'll just wait for them to join us again, and then we'll tell them, and then we'll do the vice chair. Hopefully they don't wait too long to come back on.
Now, please keep in mind that I will gladly segue out of the vice chair position for Bill. If that's of interest to him, I do not want to lose him from this committee. So if that's what it will take to get him to stay on, I will do that. If he's happy just being a member of the committee going forward, we don't lose his skill set. But we talked about transitioning last night, and he said that if he or I were going to leave, it'd be nice to have people of experience in place. And I had a good strong drink last night when I finished my conversation with him. It hasn't been an easy time to think about this, because Bill and I came on the committee at the same time, and I've lost track of how many years ago that was. And we've been shoulder to shoulder through far more than I can express. So this was not the easiest thing to do. And if Athol hadn't been on for a year already and had the considerable experience, then I would have agreed completely with Ann. But I do think he's got enough to take the curve. But between the two of those highly skilled people, I think we're well positioned. But there's no question. Bill was concerned about losing me and my contacts. I still have my contacts, whether I'm in this position or not. They can't get rid of me. And but the downtown revitalization and the impacts on the heritage, that's my right now. I seem to be the best set of eyes on what's going on, and I got a lot to talk to you about, Emily, as far as the next 2 phases for the downtown and of downtown revitalization, the reconstruction. So anyway, that's my rationale. I don't want you to think I'm an idiot. So
No, it's fine. I mean, the committee can choose whoever it wants as the chair.
Yeah, but that's my rationale. I squirmed over this. I got to tell you, it was just, but I do think it's the best thing going forward strategically. I've done it on other boards and committees, and see.
Okay.
I hope Bill will understand that he would have the option of me segueing off. Did I make that clear in my first comments?
I think so. You can
would've-
reiterate it when we get to the vice chair position if you want.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I hope they join us again in a minute.
I think they've taken it personally. My gosh, where have they gone?
I did say, oh, it won't take too long. Join us again quickly. So that might have been my fault.
Can I nominate David for vice chair?
That means he would have to come to all of our meetings. Do you want to do that, David?
How does that work? I don't know if a staff member can be that in that position.
Nothing like
but I thank you for the offer.
Yeah, nothing like setting a precedent, my friend.
Blaze new trails for sure.
It would.
When I interview new committee members, I do have to say, are you an employee of the city? And if they say yes, I'd be like, no, you can't be on the committee. Sorry.
Was Andy tried? Andy or Ron? CAO?
What's that? Joe?
Oh, good. There's Athol back again.
Okay.
We'll just wait for Bill he might be having internet problems trying to get back on. All right, we're good, Athol. We're just waiting for Bill.
Thank you.
I could call him and tell him to join us again.
I hope he
I'd
has
get him a-
lost the connection.
That's what I was thinking.
I get my old CB radio out, I can get a hold of them. They never fail.
Does the city consider that an official backup? We are a rural city. CB would.
Yeah. Go back to the CBs.
Yeah.
I think we're just gonna have to bundle up and meet in a field. That might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, a nice hut somewhere.
Yeah,
Oh no, we got more than 5. 2 ice huts. We'll join them together.
that's right. Yeah.
Maybe 9.
There are
Can't have
several
five
ice
in one
huts out
spot,
here. We could just circle them and use that.
My ice hut is portable, so I can move it. It's easy. You can just pop it down and move it to wherever's convenient.
Something strange I've never seen before is happening on my screen. I don't know about yours, but I keep getting this phone thing popping up.
Oh, a little phone thing. That's Ron.
Oh.
That's me. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about my image, Athel.
Okay, I'm gonna phone Bill and tell him to join us again. Hi, Bill. It's Emily. Are you able to jump back onto Zoom again? Okay, great. Thanks. He's coming. Just wait a minute for his internet to connect. Oh, great. There's Bill again.
Oops. Okay, I think I'm back.
Great. We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you, so that's okay.
Oh, where's my camera?
Well, you sort that out. We can still hear you, so it's okay. I'll just continue with the chair. So the
There he is.
Oh, there I am.
oh, great,
Okay.
good.
Whoa.
Now that we're all back and sorted out technologically, so the chair position after the vote, the new chair for the Heritage Committee is Athel.
Okay, congratulations, Athel.
Thank you, Bill. And I will be relying on your knowledge of the past.
All right. So I think what we'll do is Athel, I'll finish the vice chair elections just because it's probably easier for me to do it, and then I'll hand the reins over to you for the rest of the meeting. Does that sound good?
That sounds fine.
Great. Okay. So the election for our next position is for the position of vice chair. So do I have any nominations for the position of vice chair for the Heritage Committee?
Can I do some preamble?
Sure.
Okay, just a short preamble. Again, I hope there's no hard feelings, Bill. I think this is good for secession, and we'll see what Athel can do for a year in that position. I will gladly offer up the vice chair position to you if it's amenable to the rest of the committee, so that you two could work very closely together if that's of interest. I desperately do not want you to lead this committee. Your knowledge and your experience and your calm is a good balance. It'd be important. So I would hope that you would definitely stay on. But if it's of interest to you, then or anyone, I will offer up the vice chair position, although I'm certainly willing to be open to standing. So go ahead, proceed, please.
Okay, so is that a nomination for Bill from Jim? Are there any other nominations for the position?
Well, I nominate Jim. He's in it.
Okay. Okay, and a third time, are there any nominations for the position of vice chair? Okay, that's great. So just before we vote, Bill and Jim, do both of you want to be nominated for the position of vice chair?
Sure, yep.
Yeah, I would stand if it's of interest. I'll let the committee decide what they want to do here.
All right, great. You guys can leave then. Thank you, and we'll vote. We'll do it the same, and we'll try and be quicker this time. Maybe if you come back in 7 minutes, I think
Okay.
that'll give us enough time to get our act together. Oh, I think
Actually, sorry, I'm back. I'm not thinking clearly here. I'm just a little emotional about what I'm doing right here. I had offered my position to Bill, so I feel like I kind of entrapped him here. I
Okay.
said that I would step aside if he was of interest, but I want you to know that if that's the will of the committee to go with Bill, I'm fine with that. If not, then fine.
Okay, great. Jim, are you going to leave or are you just going to leave the room?
I'll be outside. You can just yell.
Okay, sounds good. We'll just yell at you. Okay. All right. So back to voting. So Jim nominated Bill, and I guess he's not going to be giving a preamble for that because he's not there. So I guess I'll preamble for him. Bill's the chair of the committee. We all know him. I think Jim's intention was for Bill and Athol to work together on that. Athol, do you want to give a preamble for Jim?
Well, I've just, I'm at a loss here because I just nominated Jim because he was sitting in the chair and has the experience of that I personally lack about the local knowledge that he has. So he has an abundant source of local knowledge, and that's why I nominated him.
Great. Thanks.
I
Athol.
have no objection to working with Bill either. So it's because of my newness to the area, the local knowledge part is what I seek.
Great. Thanks, Athol. All right, let's get right into the voting. Who would like Jim to be the vice chair?
This is a tough one, but I think can you hear me okay?
We can, yeah.
Yeah, Bill's been great to me. I mean, he's been, very approachable and worked together on a lot of stuff. And Jim, he's a constituent of mine. He's a neighbor of mine, friend of mine too. So he's been through a tough year as well. So I think I'll vote for Jim there.
Okay. So wait, so who are you voting for?
Jim.
Okay, you're voting for Jim. Actually, let's just go around because
Yeah.
this just makes it easier. Okay, so Ron, you're voting for Jim. Athol.
Yeah.
Who are you voting for?
Jim, I nominated him, so I'm obligated.
Probably good. Rob, who are you voting for?
It's a really tough call, but I'm gonna vote for Jim.
Okay, Anne.
Bill.
Okay, and Ian.
Jim,
Okay, all right. So that is 1 for Bill and 4 for Jim. Okay. Jim, you can come back now. I don't think he can hear me.
You're supposed to yell.
I don't think yelling's gonna make it any better.
Are you able to plot back in yet?
Yes, come back.
Okay.
And we'll just wait for Bill to come back, which should be in a couple of minutes.
Vote him again?
We'll just give him a minute to come back on his own, and if he doesn't, I'll call him. This is easier when we're all in the same room and you can just stick your head out.
Yeah. Sorry about all the confusion there. I'm just, this is unusual for me, so.
We'll give him another minute. I said 7 minutes and it's been 6.
Fair is fair.
Oh, Rob's gone now too.
Now we can see his collection of salt and pepper shakers.
He's gone fishing now, I guess, for Rob, maybe.
He's in that ice hut.
Yeah.
We thought you'd gone to the ice hut, Rob.
Take it off. I just get a cardboard cutout here, and I can leave.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to call Bill again. Hi, Bill, it's Emily. We're ready for you to join us again. That's okay. We'll see you in a minute. All right, Bill's on his way back.
There we are.
Great. Okay, good. Everyone's back with us again. All right, so for the position of vice chair for the Heritage Committee, it's Jim.
Okay.
So our chair is Athol and our vice chair is Jim. So what I will do is I will hand the reins over to Athol now.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Bill as having been a force in this committee for many years. And I hope, Bill, that you'll be willing to assist me because I'll probably need you.
Oh, sure.
So that being said, thank you all for the confidence and let's see if I can earn it. So the first item of business on our regular agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have any comments?
I have an additional item under other business. There will be, I just wanted to discuss with people new members who are coming on board in 2021. And also the new downtown Lindsay street signs, which were circulated prior to the meeting for everybody to look at.
Those being added, do I have any further comments? All right, will someone move the minutes?
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Yes, thank you. Seconder?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So moved by Jim, seconded by Ron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have we lost Anne?
No, Anne's still here.
Oh, she's there.
I don't see her on my.
Can you
I don't
see
her
Ian
on
as
my
well?
list here. Anyway, so are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing as tonight, especially we're going into discussion and development. There being none, let's move to the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes of the previous meeting?
Yes.
All right, may I have a mover for the adoption of the minutes?
Motion is,
Thank you, Rob. Seconder? Ian? So moved by Rob, seconded by Ian. All those in favor?
Aye.
That was
Favor.
thirded by Ann, by the way, too. So
I can't see Anne.
Nor can I.
I'm here, I
I
promise.
can see her. I can see her.
And when you're, if you're gonna second or move stuff, just say it.
I'll say it.
Since some people can't see you for
Okay,
some
yeah, we
reason.
don't want to leave you out.
I'm sorry about that, Anne. I can't see you at all.
That's okay.
All right,
Is
moving
your
on to,
screen maximized? Sometimes if your screen's
ah,
not,
there you go. I see you back. I just see you when you speak.
oh,
Oh,
okay.
there you are. I see you back.
I'll just hum constantly and then you'll always.
Make it a jolly tune, will you? Okay, moving on to the first item of the agenda, 5.1 under reports is number 1 on your agenda. KLMHC 2021-01. Do I have any comments?
Do you want to give, I can give everybody kind of the quick Coles notes of this, just to summarize, since we haven't talked about this since November. Why don't I give everybody the Coles notes version of it? Does that sound, that sounds good?
Great.
Okay, so this is a proposed development on William Street North in Lindsay. It's separated from the downtown Lindsay Conservation District by Peel Street and also by a municipal parking lot. So there's really no buildings between the two properties. So this planning application, it's for an official plan amendment and rezoning for the 11-story building. It was received in the fall. And I requested, when it came in, there was no heritage impact assessment. So I requested that from them through David, and they provided that. The application, it went to the Planning Advisory Committee on December 2nd, and it was deferred back to staff for additional comments, in part to allow for this committee to receive and review the heritage impact assessment. So this is an opportunity to provide comment on the application as it's presented, and discuss sort of the findings of the heritage impact assessment, as well as the planning application as a whole. So David is here. He knows the ins and outs of the application much better than I do, because it's his file. So if you have specific questions about it, he is the person to answer them.
Thank you very much for the summary. I came prepared to do a lot of discussion, and now as chair, I would need your permission to say anything about it. So that's my first question. Are you willing to allow me to comment?
Usually we let the chair comment in kind of a discussion. If everybody's still happy with that, I'm happy with that as staff. I know procedurally that's probably not what we're supposed to do, but that's kind of how this committee works.
Are
Is
we
everybody
able to
good
do
with
that kind of an understanding without being held to account somewhere down the road for a violation?
Well, that's how we usually do it, so I hope so.
Well, then we have an understanding on record. I'm fine with it. Is everybody
So,
else okay with it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think you should go ahead, Ethel.
Thank you. So, calling on discussion regarding the heritage impact assessment that Emily got out to us in the middle of the month. So do we have any comments?
I have a couple of comments to that.
Rob, please.
Yeah. The Heritage Impact Assessment states that there's no impact to the Heritage District in Lindsay downtown. I have to disagree with that. 11 stories right at the east end of the downtown district. This is an adjacent property. It's not even separated by another house or a block. I think that 11 stories at the east end will seriously diminish the vista. Your eye will catch that tall, massive building before you notice anything else on the downtown. So I have to disagree with that statement. I think that it does affect the downtown Heritage District vista from the east side.
Athol, I'd like to chime in there to add some things to Rob's comments. And I just noticed that David has left. And
He doesn't
he
want to
should
hear what we have to
probably-
say about it.
He should probably be here to hear what we have to say.
Is
I don't
he
know
able to be here? Is there a reason why David would have left?
His internet might have cut out.
Okay.
Oh.
That's usually why,
So why
I
don't I-
assume why people have dropped off of Zoom.
Why don't
Do
I
we
just,
have a way to contact him, Emily?
Just through email. I don't have his cell phone number,
why
unfortunately.
don't I just speak then, and then perhaps Athol, you can summarize what Rob and I and perhaps yourself will say when David returns.
All right.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, I'm also taking notes of what everyone is saying so that
I have
we
another comment if you don't touch on it before me. Go ahead, Ian.
So I'd like to just speak briefly to two things, and Rob alluded to the first, which concerns vistas. The current Heritage Conservation District downtown, the vista in question runs essentially, I think, from Victoria Avenue right down to the block at the end that includes the Academy Theatre. That's considered a vista. However, I would make the argument that vistas can also happen in other directions and are not limited just to the HCD that currently exists. So if you are a pedestrian, or in the summertime, if you are a boater and you're coming south along the Scugog River, either by foot or on the water, one of the most striking and historic vistas that you will see as you are approaching Lindsay proper is of the sloping embankment near Macdonnell Park, sometimes called McDonald Park. And up on top of that is the Legion Hall. And just beyond that is St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, which has this beautiful Gothic Revival tower with sort of castle-like features to it. And that has been an historic vista for that part of Lindsay since 1887. And that is one of the vistas that I certainly think would be severely compromised by this development. And when a bunch of us went on a walkabout the other day, Rob also rightly commented that that vista with the tower could also be compromised from other directions as well, perhaps looking east from a western perspective. So vistas is the first concern, and how that all plays out along the waterfront, as it were. And the second comment I had has to do with design aesthetic. So when you go to that intersection of William and Wellington Streets, there's quite a bit of architecture represented. You've got Manley Motors, or now Williams and Chrysler, on the northeast corner. You've got a convenience store in the southwest corner. And those are, and then the building that will be, I guess, demolished to make way for this new development, if it goes ahead, is also fairly modern in appearance. However, in that same general neighborhood, we also have the former McRae Foundry, which is an old factory. We have just down the road on Wellington Street at the corner of Wellington and Cambridge, the Spectrum Gymnasium, also a former factory. And then a little further up on William Street North, and although it's hiding behind modern cladding, we have the Horn Brothers Woolen Mill, which is now the Wedgwood Park apartment building. And it was once one of Lindsay's largest employers. And then just a little south of that, there is a building that was once a store. And I guess my general point here is that there are heritage buildings in that neighborhood, even if it's not a heritage conservation district. The sort of second sub-point here is in terms of design, when I looked over the drawing that was provided in the package, what I could not comprehend was why the architect had to be so, to put it bluntly, kind of in your face with the design. If you go north on Lindsay Street, again in the same general neighborhood, you'll see the new pumping station that was built year and a half ago, I think. And that pumping station, the city could have put a, on like a brutalist looking box on the site that really didn't inspire anything. But instead they chose, whether by accident or design, to incorporate gables and to incorporate sort of, I think, 2 different shades of brick. So it blends into that otherwise historic neighborhood. And I also draw the committee's attention to the building at the corner of Queen and Lindsay and Wellington Streets, which includes some housing as well as some municipal offices, I believe. And again, that building is not some kind of postmodern fantasy. It is a building with some varying shades of brick. It has a gabled pointed roof. It's not a flat roof. And I guess the question I have is why, with this particular development, given the surrounding buildings and landscape features, I also draw attention quickly here to the celebrations, former Queen Street United Church, and the annex behind that, which was a knitting mill. These are historic red brick buildings that are a century or more years old in many cases. And if you're looking for a parallel example of a relatively recent development where the architect has kept in mind the relatively historic surrounding regions, I point to the Wilson development on Victoria Avenue South, the railway lands, where the condos are not only named after buildings that were once on the site, i.e. Union Station, but there are certain features in the architecture, again, varying colors of brick, slightly sort of fanciful roof lines that give the buildings a really unique personality and also evoke the appearance of what was once there. So with the drawing that I saw, that we saw in the package, I really don't think that it is appropriate for that particular site. And I want to be clear that I think we as a committee should be clear that we are not against development, that we are not against housing or condominiums, but is there a way that instead of maybe the development being 11 stories this way, could it be, this way instead? And a good example of that is the former pajama factory on King Street, where the massing and character of the original building has more or less been retained. So those are my comments, and I would just highlight vistas and some questions about the design of the structure being proposed.
Thank you. Rob, does that answer what you had as another point?
Yeah, it touched on it. I totally agree. We're not against development. If this was another block or 2 farther north, or not on the riverbed, or right at the end of the vista for the Heritage District, I'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what we want. We're preserving what's important and building up, because up is inevitable. No, you totally touched on it, and that's what I wanted to say. If it was appropriate for the location and scale, because the mass of this building is unreal for an adjacent property to a heritage district. The other point I wanted to make was that the provincial policy statement speaks to both natural and cultural heritage attributes of a property, which I think this particular property could go either way in both of those categories. It's right on a river. There's a park, a walking trail right next to it. Even if you completely overlook the Conservation Heritage District for Lindsay, it still doesn't quite meet provincial policy, in my opinion.
Thanks, Ron. Anyone else?
I have a comment. Just kind of expanding on the Vista portion of it. The Trans-Severn Waterway itself is a National Historic Site. So from the Trans-Severn Waterway to the Heritage District, I think that vista is really important. It connects the 2 heritage sites. And then the report itself, I agree 100% on what you're saying about the building and the design. The report itself says in order to blend it in with the surrounding area, and then it also refers to the building as modern style. So the report itself conflicts about the style of the building and trying to fit into the surrounding area. But other than that, everything you've already said, I won't repeat it. I agree with it.
Thank you, Anne. Did I have you, Ron?
Yeah, I was just going to comment here, like just looking at the authors here, like the principal planner and from EcoView, and then the architect from Bed Square Group, I think it's called. But they say above here, they're saying, I'm quoting, while it is understood that the building will be much taller than nearby buildings, the location of the building is in proximity to McDonald Park or McDonnell Park, I always call it McDonald Park, combined with a lack of consistent architectural theme or character within the immediate area, will ensure that the building not negatively impacts the surrounding neighborhood from a design perspective. So they're saying that there's no, combined with the lack of consistent architectural theme or character within the immediate area. So are they not aware that that is a historical area, or they're saying that it's not? Like, that's what I read into it.
See, I think that's a bit of a cop-out, because if you go down Kent Street, which is a heritage conservation district, those buildings on Kent Street, they all have different styles of architecture themselves in many respects. A lot of it's similar, but I think there is some distinction.
Well, yeah, I see they have a design for the rooftop garden, and it's going to be not just residential, but they have commercial at the bottom floor, at the first floor, ground floor.
Yes.
But anyway, it's just I found it kind of odd that they're saying that it's not in it doesn't have a consistent architectural theme in the immediate area. But I mean, you listed obviously the church and the Legion and all the other buildings around there, like in that area, not just right there, but just around the vicinity of 2 or 3 blocks. But I don't know, did these planners, obviously they've studied it, they've spent a lot of money on this, but I thought that they would have at least checked in to the fact that it is a historical area. But just kind of found that odd there, that statement on page 51 at the bottom. But I mean,
you want to jump in?
It would be nice if they came to the meeting or talked to us about it. We could ask questions to them.
Okay.
I think that would be a great idea. One of the things, one of the comments I have is this appears to me to even contravene the official plan of the city of Kawartha Lake. In their program, they state in section 2.3 that the city in development in areas considered to be of architectural and historical value shall have regard for the conservation and preservation of the architecture or historic features or sites thereon. And I don't think they've got a single attention to anything of the neighborhood. Across the street from them is a row of Edwardian townhouses. Beside them, beside the parking lot, there's a Victorian style building. There's nothing in their design that reflects anything that surrounds this property. I'm concerned also that they're trying to say, because of that little parking lot, that they're not adjacent. But visually, they are adjacent. There is nothing between them and the church, except perhaps some parked cars, which we saw no cars there when we did our walking tour. So I think the viewscape is severely compromised, and the streetscape also, because of the unsympathetic architecture of the building itself.
I would also just like to quickly interject here. I've mentioned this to Emily and Athol. You and I have talked about it, and David may have something to say to this too. About 6 or 7 years ago, I was told in an informal conversation by some residents of the city of Guelph that apparently there is a bylaw in the city of Guelph that says nothing can be built higher in the downtown than the Roman Catholic Church of Our Lady, which is the big basilica up on the hill. And my understanding is that there is not a similar provision here in the city of Kawartha Lakes. So the concern I have is that you could designate something like Kent Street and the immediate side streets as a heritage conservation district, but then along the river, go and put up, buildings however many stories high that one would like. So I think there's a real argument to be made for both built and natural heritage reasons to consider doing a heritage conservation district study on the Scugog River itself as an avenue of transportation for both foot and water traffic. So that's what I would just add to Athel's comments.
It is not unknown to have those kind of bylaws. Newmarket, for instance, has a bylaw that says that no building shall be taller than the spire on the Christian Baptist Church. So that was a common bylaw within many towns. My concern here basically is that it not only obstructs the view from the water, it totally obstructs the view from the water. There isn't any way to sort of look around it and see the church, see the Victorian buildings, see the Georgian buildings, the Edwardian ones. It's just like all of a sudden this monster has been plopped down in a rectangular form to block the vision. So I think there are a fair number of comments we can make back to this developer relating to viewscape, streetscape, and architectural design and sympathy of design. Does that sort of say everything we've said?
I think I've got comments down about all of those kinds of things. Sorry, Jim, if you can just give me one
I'd like
second.
to weigh in. Bill, do you want a piece of this too?
No, I think that gets everything out. I guess the real question is, Emily, is it likely the developer is prepared to sit down and look at his design?
I think
With
if you
us.
want to do that, you're going to have to offer some kind of solutions as to what you would rather see instead of what's been proposed. So I think you need some kind of tangible suggestions or solutions in terms of how, if someone is going to redevelop this site, what can they do to make a building that would be acceptable to this committee? So the comments can reflect that instead of just saying these things aren't good, then you can say these things aren't good, but in terms of redevelopment, if you're going to do it, here are the things we want to see specifically.
My own suggestion would be that the site be developed if they want to put residential in, rather than going up and down 11 stories, stretch it out along most of the block and make the design reflect either the terrace or row houses across the street, or the red brick buildings, ancient and modern, on the east side of the river. And there's one more comment I'll make, and then I'll shut up. There's sort of an existential question here too, relating to the relationship between heritage and tourism. And the city of Kawartha Lakes likes to promote itself as a rural city with these made up of smaller communities with quaint Victorian downtowns. So how can we say that out of one side of our mouth and out the other side of our mouth approve these developments that make us resemble something out of, say, Markham or the 905? And I think that's a question that needs to be considered, because a lot of people, I would imagine, retire to this area, move to this area because they're attracted to our historic downtowns, not because they want to see more of the same from where they're coming from.
I think that really ties in too with that whole Trans-Siberian Waterway. Regional tourism has come up with the town concept over the last couple of years and are really trying to draw people in. I know when we were doing up the brochures for that for Bob Cajun, it was all about the history and why we're unique. And I think the same could be said for Lindsay, that if we're going to try to draw tourism in, we need to make sure that when they get to Lindsay by boat or car, that downtown right up to the water does keep that same feeling. So for me, that's a big thing of how that building with all the cantilevers and everything on it just doesn't fit in with that at all.
Can I jump
One
in?
of the things
Go
that
ahead. Go ahead,
oh,
Ethel.
sorry, Jim. Jim, go
When you're
ahead.
done, I'll speak.
One of the things that we discussed on our walkabout is putting forward the designation of that section of the Scugog River, because right behind that building, Ian was knowledgeable and kind enough to point out that the turning basin is right behind that building. And that this city, Lindsay, developed totally around that river, and that there were even down there blacksmith shops where boats could pick up supplies and be repaired, etc., just by pulling up along the shoreline. And I think there's a big story that needs to be told about the birthplace of the city. And in fact, we are currently looking into designating an area of the town that used to be the downtown, and it's right along the river. So I think one of the things we should put on our agenda for the future, Emily, is consideration of the designation of that section of the Scugog River.
I think that's a good idea. I think it also informs some wider questions about identifying, designating cultural heritage landscapes in the city. So I think that might be a conversation that we should have at another meeting. I think it's a good idea, both specifically and in the broader context.
Yes. So if we could make note of that for our future plans, we'll bring it up at another meeting. The other thing that I think I would like to take a couple of minutes to discuss is that David was, I wish he were here, was kind enough to send out to us.
Actually, I still haven't had a chance to comment on things so far. Is this something supplemental to what we've been talking about, Ethel?
Well, I think it brings up those things we talked about the heritage of that particular spot.
Well, continue. Just
but
make
you
sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll weigh in here as well. Just I was taken aback by the scale and scope of this and how it just stood out. I view this entire area of there and the basin for as long as I've been in this city, it's 35 years. People have referred to this. And in fact, even with the St. David Riverview situation there, when I was talking to Carl Bray, he and Marcus Letourneau, who did the Hcd study for the downtown, they had scoped all that area down below and along the water all night, trying to figure out where the Hcd should go. They, at that time, and I spent a lot of time with them, were commenting on the history down around the river as well, and that was important. But when we were looking at St. David Riverview, I called up Carl and I said, have you got anything to say? And he said, Jim, just remember, this is where it all began. And there is more history recorded along this stretch of the river, you know, certainly around the bend from St. David Riverview down around past the Carew. He says, this is where it all began. This is just, it's vital in importance. And I talked to him too a little bit about designation and whatnot. And he said, Jim, it's done. You know, there's the Grand River, there's the Rideau Canal, there's these kinds of waterways. He said, but that is another dialogue. We talked about vistas, and one of the early vistas, we have to remember that all those trees all the way down to the lake were not there. It was denuded because of the forestry industry down there. And so we have a captain's house on Colburn Street. You had a clear view from the crow's nest on that house down to the lake. This is a very high point as well. And when that was a tannery about that time, you would have had that vista right down, way down as well. When we walked there, and thanks to Ian as well, because as much as I thought I knew the history of the area, I hadn't really thought of it in that way. I might know a fair amount about the downtown itself, but there are a number of vistas. I just hadn't looked at it that way. If you look right back past, you can clearly see the Legion, and that is a designated property. You can see the back part of the actual HCD in terms of the Toledo building there, where the hill, the parking lot comes back to the hill. If you follow the actual boundary line, you see that. You can see the old mill from just below that and from that site. You can see further down the river, you can see the pajama factory, you can see all of this history there. So there are a number of vistas there that we have to consider. And certainly down William Street, right down in terms of the built sector, you're looking at where the Shoppers building is, the Post building that Emily owns. You look at that, that is a vista as well and brings in a different thing directly to the HCD. What I will point out too, again, I knew it was historic age. Ian just blew me away with the history. You are a historian, sir. I was super impressed. Up Wellington, just a little bit, there's a different kind of row houses there that's distinctly different. Would be as every bit as important. There are other buildings up Wellington we haven't even touched on yet. If you look up the other way, there's the Bell building. That's another vista up to the Carew house, looking up
William
Colburn. All right, there's that's significant because the Carew mill was there as well. So we have to consider that as well, and even across the bridge and up that way. We've got to remember that the Queen Street United Church was built in the 20s. It's right there too. Lindy Mackey himself had actually spoke to me when we were doing the HCD saying, I really want to be a part of this. I said, I didn't know whether you could do that. He owns that property, the Celebration and whatnot. And I don't know whether that would be considered adjacent because it's just across the river. I don't know, but he is right there. That might be another fact to be considered, but I knew he was keenly interested in that recognition. So I'll point out too that the other part of that, although it's not part of the HCD, you get to see the corner building at Kent Street East and Lindsay, right down towards the water there. The original portion was a hotel. It just happens to be a prominent structure in the area that we're considering for another HCD, but it is certainly kitty corner and adjacent too. But you've got that vista as well. So anyway, enough of the vistas, but there's lots there as well. I want to point out too, I'm not hostile. My background is housing, especially social housing for seniors and disabilities and this kinds of thing. And I'm probably one of the few people you know that actually invested in it, I believe so much, in a housing company. I'm the past president of a manufacturing firm. We didn't get too far. So, but anyway, so I take it very seriously. I believe in accommodation. I'm an entrepreneur. And I still look at properties. I will be building more homes myself. So I get it. And I do hope that something can be done with this site. Certainly not on this scale and scope. This just doesn't fit for me visually or in many other ways. I think there's other factors involved. One of the concerns I have is if they do have to build on this property, there's lots of history there. I don't know how stable it is. Are there erosion reports? Or are there all things that, how thoroughly have they looked at this? I happen to have 3 buildings on the main street. And just from redoing the roads and the infrastructure there, I can tell you what it's like to have vibration affect your building. I've had stuff fall off. I've had a few, not serious damage, but that too. I'll point out that the church, St. Andrew's Church, did a lot of pointing, a lot of repair on the front of that. They've put a huge amount of money into this structure here. And vibration, I spoke with Brick Mason the other day by coincidence to look at some of the repairs to my buildings in the downtown. And he talked about how the lime mixture for the mortar dries out over time, and the buildings lose their elasticity. So they are vulnerable to vibration. I'm concerned about what they would do there. And those houses right on the corner of York Street North. We don't know the history there. There's a couple of kind of Victorian houses, I'm not sure. And they need to be considered too, as well as the other architecture. Ian pointed out to me and to the rest of the people walking that this is the last remnants of the industrial section of its kind. We don't have that anywhere else. All right. And that's very significant. Aside from the pajama factory and everything else, all these other situations are being sensitive to our history, our heritage, and I think that's great. A point or two that I would really dearly love to meet with these people, chat with them, see if we can help them along, to see if there'd be something to that through the appropriate process. But I can't think of a single situation with a development where we haven't been able to work out an arrangement with them. And as much as there is a lot of negativity about it, I thought we did some pretty damn good work. And actually credit goes to the developers as well with the Grand Hotel. What they came up with in the beginning was kind of startling, but you look at what we ended up in the last final options, that shows that we can do it. There's other historic churches, there's an ecumenical council, and they're threatened as a species. I think when you look at that whole thing, anywhere from the Hcd, you can see the spire of St. Andrews. You can pretty much walk around there and it's prominent, as well as other spires, but right there, it will be dwarfed. It will be dominated by this massive tower, again, which doesn't fit in terms of architecture. What do we have here? Again, the river, I do think, to the points already made, I do believe we should be looking at that, and it's probably one of the, maybe we should have started there, but we started with the downtown and the existing Hcd, and that's it. I hope we're going to be sensitive to the surrounding area. I'd like to know whether the developer actually had the heritage people come out and look at the surrounding area, because there is so much history around there. And although it's from different, it might be from slightly different eras, I think there is consistency in terms of its age. And any one of those places would be designatable if people had wanted to do that. So I don't understand that comment. That's it. I hope that we'll get a chance to work with these people and that we don't miss an opportunity down the road. But as far as there's just an awful lot that concerns me about this proposal.
I should also just jump in too. For those of you who came on the walkabout the other day, we started at the foot of Bond Street. Well, I went for another walk, I think a day after, and the best place to appreciate that south-looking vista of the river with the church and the surrounding landscape features is up in the parking lot of the Carew Apartments, just north of the William Place seniors home. That's probably the best place to view that. And if any of you have been to New York City, I have not, but there is a building there called the Riverside Church that has this huge Gothic tower right next to the river that towers over the surrounding landscape. So we kind of have that in Lindsay. I think it's pretty special. And I agree with everything Jim has just said.
So I would like to talk
Sorry,
about...
One more thing. I should also express my frustration right now in the fact that if we're to make informed recommendations and provide informed commentary, we really haven't had a lot of time to get to this. And our best resource at the library is something we can't access right now. I've relied heavily on the people at, I think it was Virginia or Georgia, and Sarah when she was in there. They used to be able to come up with all kinds of history and research that blew my mind that I didn't know about. So, and that's something I'd like to get into. Conservation Authority, how do we dare to take a look? Ministry of Environment, how would we even look at what they might have on these on this property for us to actually look at? And I guess my question is, will we have time to look at this to be able to provide this, add this into our informed commentary?
Well, I think the thing you need to do right now is to formulate some comments so that planning has those. And then I think the next steps, once planning has some comments from the committee, so we're not just leaving everybody hanging, is then some of those dialogues can happen. And maybe David can speak a little bit more to the next steps in this process.
I think David sent out this afternoon, rather late this afternoon, so I haven't had much time to go through them, the environmental assessment and the archaeological assessment. So reading from the archaeological assessment, based on the results of a stage 1 background investigation, the subsequent stage 2 test pit survey, and the study area is considered to be free of archaeological material. Therefore, no additional archaeological assessments are recommended. So that sort of puts an exclamation point at the end of archaeological assessments. However, in the environmental assessments, I have several pages that I think are relevant to us to look at because they involve the heritage of the site. The thing that is missing, they have captured in the garages, they have captured the manufacturing process of the coal to gas. They have captured, and they call it correctly, historic coal gasification. They have captured the fact that there was an electrical thing with PCBs there, and they have captured that there was a junkyard and metal junkyard there. So they have gone in a fair amount of depth in this study. However, there's nothing in here about the tannery you mentioned, Ian. So that's something perhaps we want to investigate too. They also talk about the fact that there was a dry cleaning facility there. All of these things produce contaminant. So I have to give them credit. Their conclusion was that a stage or a phase 2 assessment is required. And they say that the developer has already started the phase 2 assessment. So there are some things in here that could cause us some concerns, but the only thing I haven't found in here so far, and I haven't had much time to look, is the tannery you spoke of, Ian. So,
I can probably send a picture to you.
Pardon me?
I can send a picture of it to the committee.
That would be great. And a location?
It was right basically on the embankment adjacent to Wellington Street on the south side.
Okay, thank you. So that may be some information we can also share with them as well. Emily, do you think we have enough there in our negatives that we can create some positive recommendations?
Yes, I think what the committee needs to do is to think about what do you want to see on that site. So clearly you don't want to see something that's 11 stories and modern looking.
That's first and foremost, bring it down.
What a good summary, Emily.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Honestly.
that is the summary of the committee's comments, like the very short summary. So just having a look back through the large number of notes that I've written over the past half an hour or so, the positives sort of seem to be coming out is that if the site is redeveloped, the committee wants to see something that is shorter, that takes into account the architecture of downtown Lindsay and attempts to be compatible with the site, its history and its surroundings.
Also in their statements here, in the environmental study, they say that there needs to be an additional vibration study. So I think they're catching on to the fact that we're worried about the foundations of the adjacent buildings, the adjacent and the nearby buildings. So I think with their underground parking, they're going to have to go to bedrock. And there's some study in here about the bedrock situation, and it's not exactly a firm foundation here. So the vibration of driving pylons into bedrock is quite extreme. And I live in a Century home in Newmarket, and when they even did road repair, it ruined our foundation. So it was rubble stone, which most of them were at that point in history. So we do have some concerns that we want to pass on, as well as advice, as well as what we would like to see. So Emily, what do you think of us producing a list of what we would like to see on the site and a list of caution?
Yes, I think that's appropriate.
That's where I would go with this.
So Athel, just see how you know how we usually do this. So kind of what the chair does is we have this huge list of summary comments that I put together. And then usually myself and the chair, we work together to put together like a letter that goes directly to planning that summarizes those comments. And we usually do that after the meeting.
That's what I would recommend.
So yeah, so what I can do is we can have a chat tomorrow about putting these all together in a tidy way.
I think that as long as we get a format approval from the committee, that it includes 2 sections, one of them being what we'd like to see and the other being what we're cautioning them about. If everybody's comfortable with that, I'm sure Emily and I can pull that together.
You need a motion to that effect?
No, I'm just asking what.
Format approval, okay.
Yeah, does anyone have a problem with that?
Yeah, and
I'm good with
then the motion in the report is that the report be received and then the comments be provided to planning staff through the chair, which is basically what we just discussed.
Okay.
So that's kind of captured in the motion.
But I'd like to thank David for sending this information. I wish I'd had it a little sooner.
I look forward to reading it. I missed that completely. So
While we have David here, does anyone
Is David back?
David's here.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I apologize for earlier. I have a new webcam and that seems to be causing, I think, some stability issues with Zoom. So, but
So
we're good
you
now.
heard
I
my
think-
comments thanking you, David, for this information.
Yes.
And I guess that's where we'll go for now. And we'll draw up a report with our recommendations and our concern. All right. Is everyone comfortable moving along now?
does David have any questions for us right now?
No, I don't think so. I think even though I wasn't broadcasting back to you, that I could still hear most of your comments.
Okay, that's good.
So
Okay.
I don't really have any questions at this time.
And I knew you disappeared there for a while. I thought we lost you completely. So
Just a
That being
question I
said-
had there.
Mhm.
That's all I
Go
had.
ahead, Ron.
To David, maybe like, when would it be appropriate to speak to EcoView, like for comments? Like, would they be brought in before or after we send our comments to the planning? You know, to see
Well,
if they
I
might
think
change things.
it will likely be most beneficial if you compile some comments first and send that to EcoView, and at the same time you could then invite them to come back to the committee to discuss those comments. I think that's the most
Okay.
appropriate step forward.
Thank you, David.
All right.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else with questions for David? Have we lost Bill and Ann, or are they still here and I
oh, they're
can't see?
here.
No, we're still here, or I'm still here.
Okay, it's just I
Ann's
can't
here.
see you, so I don't know if you have comments, so I'm checking in. Any comments, Bill, that we haven't covered?
No, I think you've covered everything, Athel.
Okay. Ann?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you. So that being said, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is
we need-
5.2.
We need the motions from the recommendation in the report.
Okay, thank you.
It's okay.
I call for a motion to accept this report as information.
Do you have the reports in front of you, Athel?
I have this report in front of me, yes.
Okay, so yeah, the recommendations are that the report be received and comments be provided to planning staff through the chair.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to name it specifically, the reports, or as a package deal? How do you want that addressed?
Oh, so
Well, the only one that was widely circulated was the Heritage Impact Assessment Report.
what I'm talking about here is these reports, the reports.
No,
that-
I don't have those with me.
Okay.
I
so
did not see how this meeting was going to go.
That's okay. So what I will do is, since you don't have the agenda in front of you, I can.
I
read
have the agenda. I don't have the backup papers.
That's fine. Since you don't have them in front of you, it might make sense for me just to read the recommendations out so that everybody knows what they're actually voting on.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so the recommendations are that report KLMHC 2021-01, 46 to 66 William Street North Heritage Impact Assessment be received, and that comments be provided to planning staff through the chair.
So moved.
So
I'll
moved by
second that.
Rob
I'll
and
second.
I'll second it.
seconded by
I'll second.
it. Jim?
Jim, I
Are we
guess.
gonna
I
fight
saw
over it?
3
Oh,
hands.
you know what? Let's give that one to Ann.
That's-
Ann needs
Okay,
that.
let's do that. My
All right.
invisible Ann.
There you go. Look at her go.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ron, Ann?
Yep.
Yep.
Jim?
Okay, thank you. So let's move on then to item 5.2, which is KLMHC 2021-02, which is the Kawartha Lakes Municipal Heritage Committee 2020 review and 2021 work. So
want me to
I
give you
do
the
not
full
have them in front of me, so.
I'll give you the Coles notes of that again. So as everybody knows, I think all city committees are required to develop an annual work plan. So the Heritage Committee's work plan, it pretty much stays the same year to year because we kind of do the same things. But at our first meeting of the year, we go through what we've achieved in 2020 and what we want to do in 2021. So I provided, I think I sent this out to you separately last week, just so everybody could have a look at it and have a think ahead of time. So our 2020 achievements and then 2021 activities. So just for those of you who don't have it in front of you, since I know we don't all have paper agendas, I'll run through everything just so you know kind of where we're at. So here are our 2021 achievements.
2020?
Sorry. Oh yeah, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. So our 2020 achievements. So our task number 1, process applications for designation and make recommendations to council. So there were 2 applications for designation in 2020, one for the Case Manor Dry Stone Wall, the other for 40 Head Street, and they're both in Bobcaygeon. The Case Manor designation is going to council, the bylaw on the 28th. And the report for 40 Head Street is coming to the committee hopefully next month, possibly in March. Next is recommend properties for listing on the Heritage Register. So the committee recommended 84 properties for listing. Next, review heritage permit applications for individually designated properties and relevant development applications. So the committee reviewed 5 applications for alterations for individually designated properties and 4 development applications. Review heritage policy and make recommendations to council. So the committee reviewed the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada and recommended that council endorse them as the municipal standard of preservation, which council did. The next is continue to distribute heritage designation plaques. So we have some heritage designation plaques that haven't been distributed yet and are sitting in my office, and that has been paused because of the pandemic, not surprisingly. The next one is to update the Heritage Register so that it's consistent with the Ontario Heritage Act. So the Heritage Register is now up to date and available online and in hard copy at the Clerk's Office, Economic Development and Building. The next step is coordinate doors open in collaboration with the Heritage Network and the Victoria County Historical Society. So due to the pandemic, we went online for this one with the 2 map tours and digital tours of several local museums. Next is plan and coordinate the 2020 Osprey Heritage Awards, which unfortunately were canceled due to the pandemic. So those have been pushed off to 2021. And the next one is recruit additional members for the Heritage Committee, since there's historically been a problem of getting bums in seats, as it were. And the committee gained 3 new members in 2020. So that's what the committee achieved in the past year, which I think is pretty good considering we also had a global pandemic at the same time. So good job, everybody.
We'll just add one. Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it, Ian.
And
Just
thank
one-
you to you, Emily, as well. We couldn't have done it without you.
Thanks.
Just one minor correction with doors open. In 2019, it was jointly coordinated between the Heritage Network and the Municipal Heritage Committee, i.e. the committee, I think, bankrolled it, and the network did a lot of the on-the-ground organizing.
I think
In
so.
2020, it was with the virtual thing, it was mostly you and I don't think the Victoria County Historical Society had any role in it.
No, they didn't. So that, I mean, that was our goal from the work plan, but it was just this committee.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I've done is for 2021, I've drafted a committee work plan because we often do a lot of the same things. So some of these things are stuff we do all the time. Some of them are things that are new, like the Old Mill Conservation District. And this is the opportunity, if the committee wants to add more stuff they want to do in 2021, this is the time to discuss it and add it onto the work plan. So I'll go through this stuff. If you got more stuff you want to do, I'll just write it on the work plan, and then it goes to council in March for council approval. So council now has decided that they're getting all the work plans in March, and they're just approving them all at the same time for all of the committees. So we're getting it done now ahead of time so that we can do this. So I'll run through the draft for people who don't have it in front of them. And then if there's things we want to add, then that's great. So it's a mix of statutory and other items. Goal number 1, process application for designations and make recommendations to council. Things we always do. Number 2, recommend properties for listing to council. Number 3, review heritage permit applications for individually designated properties. 4, review heritage policy and provide recommendations to council. 5, continue to distribute heritage designation plaques, which I think is going to be on our work plan until the end of time. 7, coordinate doors open in collaboration with the Heritage Network and Victoria County Historical Society. 8, plan and coordinate the 2021 Osprey Heritage Awards. 9, participate in the Old Mill Heritage Conservation District development. And 10, comment on relevant planning and development applications. So that's very similar to last year. The things that have been changed are we don't really need to recruit new members anymore. We don't really need to have any effort to recruit new members, which is great, but it means it doesn't have to be on our work plan. And the other thing is the Old Mill Heritage Conservation District development has been added on, since that's something we're working on right now. And I've also split up reviewing heritage permit applications and reviewing planning and development applications. Since those are two kind of separate things that we do, and now that we're doing more planning and development review, I think it's appropriate to have that as a separate category.
Sorry, can I ask a question about, so we are up to our maximum then in terms of positions on the committee?
Pretty much. We will be. I'll chat about it in other business, but we are getting some new members.
Okay, I just wanted to yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'll give you the rundown when we get to other business on what's
because I have some questions about that. Okay, thank you.
for sure.
So I would like to see us add in our work plan to begin the exploration of designation for the section of the Scugog River where this town of Lindsay began. Loosely stated like that.
Sounds good.
At least it gives a heads up that we're going to investigate doing some natural heritage. Are there any other comments? Pardon?
Sorry, in that stretch of the river that you're talking about or referring to, Athol, has there been any mention at all about the native history involved? Because that was a traverse way, a waterway for I guess it was First Nation at that time, and I just didn't know whether there was any kind of, would they have addressed that in their archaeological report, or how?
Yes, they did. They did address it, and they addressed it very well.
Okay, thank you.
And so that report you now have on your computers in the form of an email from, I guess, Emily and David, and I recommend that you read it, especially the portion about the Aboriginal influence. They found none up at that site, but they do refer to the river.
Okay.
So I think when we're developing, starting some research to designate that river, that will play a large component in the designation. Anyone else? Ron? Anything? Anne, you've got your mic turned off?
Yeah, I think the report that came to the committee of the whole the other day, it was good because it clarifies how when we when we put a property on a listing. So I think that was great, and that's a good start. You know, that people or owners of properties are notified ahead of time. So I think that was a good move, positive move. So, you know, they don't get sideswiped if somebody finds out secondhand that they have that they're on a list, and this way they're contacted first, and it's I think it's proactive that way. So that was a good thing.
Just so everybody knows what that report was, that was bringing forward our recommendation from November about the policy and process updates from the Ontario Heritage Act amendments and the process for listing. Just in case you don't follow along with Committee of the Whole all the time, which why would you constantly do that?
One of
5
the
hours
things,
long.
one of the things I wondered if you might add to the 2020 accomplishments, Emily, were that the committee attained permission from the council to make comment on the changes
Right.
to
Yes, I'll
the
add that.
Heritage Act. I think that's a rather large contribution.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yep, I'll add that in. I'd kind of forgotten about that.
I didn't.
That's good.
So, is there any more comment about the 2020 accomplishments and the 2021 work plan? There being none, may I have a motion to accept them?
I'll read you the motion just so we're
All
being
right.
on board. Second. All right, so the motion as printed in the report is that report KLMHC 2021-02 Kawartha Lakes Municipal Heritage Committee 2020 review and 2021 work plan be received, and that the proposed 2021 work plan be forwarded to council for approval.
May I have someone move it?
I'll move that.
Okay, Bill, and a seconder, Anne,
Sure. Thank you.
and all those in favor? Ron?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Unanimously approved. Moving on to section 5.3, which is KLMHC 2021-03, which is regarding a 1939 and 67 West Street North site plan application review. Could you give us the Coles Notes version, Emily?
I will give you the Coles Notes. So this is actually something that Athol had requested come forward to the committee last summer, but we just got the application for this in late 2020. So this was a site plan application that was received by planning and circulated to the committee and myself. So this property is known municipally as 9, 39, and 67 West Street North in Finland Falls. So it's just for some geographic, for those of you who have no idea where that is in Finland Falls, which I didn't, it is on Cameron Lake, and it is on the, sorry, I'm just trying to orient myself here. So when you come into Finland, if you, before crossing the bridge to get downtown, on County Road 8, West Street North comes off of County Road 8 and it goes north towards Cameron. So it is on the end of West Street North there, just so you kind of know where it is related to everything else. So what the proposed development is it's 2 5-story 33-unit apartment buildings, 2 5-unit waterfront townhouse blocks, and 2 4-unit townhouse blocks, and 1 2-unit townhouse blocks. So there's a total of 53 units in this development as a whole. The proposed development, it's on West Street North. So the current parcel of land, it's mostly vacant. There is a building located at 67 West Street North. The surrounding neighborhood is mostly single-family residential, and most of the buildings are constructed in sort of the mid to late 20th century. There are no recognized heritage properties in the area. Well, right around that building, they're adjacent or quite close to it. In terms of how it relates to the heritage features in Finland Falls, it's a tall building. It would likely be visible from the Oak Street Heritage Conservation District because of the height, but it's not in that kind of direct view shed where it would say sort of block the views or those sorts of things from the district itself. So the committee might want to comment on some of the views that that might be from the district to this particular property. If not immediately adjacent, if the committee wants to provide comment, that's fine. If the committee doesn't want to provide comment, that would also be appropriate as well. It's just really what the committee wants to do on this particular one.
I have a question. When we get these drawings and things from planners and developers and architects, with the one on William Street, we saw, I think there were 1 or 2 different views of it, but would it be helpful for developers and committee members in the future to have included in whatever package that comes to our table, a view of the development from, say, 3 or 4 different viewpoints or angles, so that we can actually have a sense on paper of what, say, this development would look like if you were standing at the side of the canal in Finland Falls looking towards it, or wherever it may be.
That would probably be helpful. What we do have are the elevations, but they're just kind of floating in space. So I'm assuming everybody has seen these, but that's what is.
One needs to know that those intrude upon the vision of anyone standing at the Trent Canal Waterway locks, anyone standing at the big Finland lit up sign that used to be on the theater that's been restored and placed there, and all of the spots where the boats tie up, having gone through the locks and having decided to stay for a while. This will be massively visible from those spots.
On the south side?
It's on the west side of the locks,
Okay.
and lead up to the falls. Do you know where the swing bridge is for the railway?
Yeah.
It's right approximately there on the far shore if you're standing under the Finland sign.
So is that the north or south side?
You're asking me, and I'm
Here, what I'll do is I'll pull up a map and I'll just share my screen so that everyone can see where it is. Just because I know that it's not always easy to visualize without a map in front of you. Just give me a second and I will find it on this map and I will share it.
It's on the south side.
I
to
believe it's
immediate
the
east
south
of the
side, yes.
arena.
Okay, sharing screen. We want to share this. Share, there we go. All right, so this is the map of Finland. This is our city map here. So downtown Finland is here where my mouse is. I'm kind of circling it there. And the development itself is over here. So it's this large parcel here. So the other heritage properties in Finland. So along Oak Street is here. That's where our district is.
Yeah.
That area here. The Trent Severn Canal, the locks are, well, I think everyone knows where those are. 13 Lindsay Street here is that stone Gothic farmhouse. So it's down by the bridge, and then way down here at the bottom of my screen is the train station, which is it's obviously a bit of a distance away. So that's what we have in terms of municipally designated heritage features.
If you're trying to understand the impact, is all of these things that you see, I can't read the name of the street, West Street North and King Street, those are all very low cottage type developments. So this will stick up above them quite a large amount. Because none of these buildings are more than a story and a half.
Are you talking of age? Or are these newer?
They're old.
Oh, very old.
Most of them are sort of mid 20th century buildings. There's a lot of like bungalows and stuff.
Cottage bungalows.
Yeah.
Worker style houses. My understanding is, and I'm not really clear on this, so don't quote me, but part of this property is the Tinker Toy property.
Allen Wood Products.
Yeah, where they made Tinker Toys, which are world famous.
Formerly the Standard Handle
Building
Company.
block. Yeah. So these buildings will be visible because of their mass and their height, is my only comment. And that is concerning some of the people that I know that live along Oak Street. And certainly the island that's created here by the Trent Severn locks, they will be certainly visible from the island. And that's where we hold many public events, such as Civic Weekend in August.
So these are homes. They're homes, they're not cottages.
Well, some of them are cottages, but some of them are homes lived in year round, most
All right,
of them
so
probably.
teasing. So has there been any kind of studying on shadowing or anything like that? Snow
I
shadow
haven't-
or light?
Have not seen anything. I don't know, David, do you know if there has been? David?
Yes, I'm here. I'm not sure about the shadow impacts. This is Mark LaHaye's file,
Okay.
so I'm not sure whether or not that's been submitted. I think it's likely that it has been, because we normally ask for that whenever we have a high-rise building proposal.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that and looking at that. And as to whether, wasn't there a question about whether proper sequence procedure was followed with this application? Wasn't there at some point with somebody saying that it moved along pretty quickly to council and through, or am I thinking about the same thing?
Yes, I don't think it appeared before this committee before I brought it to the committee last May, June sometime.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, because I think the things like the official plan, zoning, those types of things, I think they came to the city before my time. So I can't provide any history on those because I really don't know.
This is
And-
the Mike Barkwell project, right? He was instrumental involved in this, wasn't he?
Yes. One of the things that happened was what I think was presented to council the first time had less massing and less height. All of a sudden, the plan became bigger and taller. And I think there's a marina portion to it that some of these houses have a marina dock situation going on out into the water. That's what I've heard. That's what they've shown in their, they have a building on Coburn Street, which is their marketing office. And that's where some of these things were seen. So I believe it goes out into the waterway. So I don't know if Trent Severn has made comment on this or not.
If things go into the waterway, presumably Trent Severn would provide comment, but that would be their prerogative to do so.
Yes, but we haven't seen it though. So.
Okay, so in terms of comments that the committee wants to make, are there additional things that the committee wants to, comments the committee wants to make about this particular development?
My concerns and the concerns of people of Finland that I've spoken with have been the massing, the height, and the viewscape from the main tourist area, which is along Water Street, Oak Street, and on the island.
Okay.
Were there any again? I'm really hoping I can get up there and drive around through there and take a closer look now, just to put eyes on this. As far as our list in terms of properties of interest, you know, potentially designatable or anything like this, has that exercise ever been applied to that area?
As far as I know, not.
So
No, it hasn't.
is this a rare kind of structure? Some of these old cottages are kind of unique in other areas I've traveled to, and I'm aware that it's been considered.
A lot of them here, Jim, are built right on the water. So
Yeah.
they're almost like boathouses when you look at them. They
Yeah.
go right down to the water. in a
Yeah.
lot of cases along the shoreline there.
Yeah.
And they are all definitely shorter than the proposed dwellings. So this will stick up and be a main view in the viewscape of the town.
Would it be appropriate for us to go up and just do a walkabout?
I would be happy if we wanted to do that, to show you where it's going to be.
I would be
But it's
interested.
not just where it's going to be, because it's kind of around the bend.
Yeah,
But because of its height and massing, it's going to be visual everywhere.
I'd like to put eyes on that.
It might be interesting for someone to take a look in their marketing shop and see the drawings and the color drawings that are in there. They weren't provided to this committee, but they're quite extensive in there.
I'll pull it up right now. I've seen it online. I can find it again.
I saw the original ones in Mike Barkwell's window right on the main street.
Yeah.
But since it's been modified, I haven't seen anything.
Okay, this is their website. So you can see this is kind of what they're looking at, color and material wise.
Now, if you look at just along there, they're a single story.
Yeah, let's see what else they
Yeah.
have here. Oh, that's just the lake. No, this is mostly just marketing. Oh yeah, so these are the waterfront townhouses.
That height doesn't look too bad.
So these are the townhouses along the water, and then if you scroll back up here, this is the kind of apartment building behind.
Yeah.
There are two of those.
Yeah. Activities, facilities, some kind of generic interior.
There's the site plan.
Yeah, so these are the these sort of purple things here are the waterfront townhouses. Then there's the 2 5-story apartment buildings, which are the green. And then these townhouses back here, which they're showing them in blocks of 3, but there's actually some blocks of 4 and 2. It's a little bit different, but they're the same kind of idea. And they are 2.5 stories, more or less.
But they're not showing us the access to the water that they show us in their display in their store.
Oh, there's a pool too.
Mhm.
No, that's kind of the limit of what they have on the website. But that gives you a better kind of visual idea than the elevations, which are kind of a drag.
Thank you, Emily. That was great.
No problem.
Thank you.
That's good.
Do we have any comments?
If you look at the website there, up near the top, there's a clickable little video. On the opposite side of where the bridging is, there's a building that looks fairly similar, but it looks like it's maybe only 4 stories. But it looks like it's a similar building on the other side of where the rail bridge goes across.
Oh yeah, that building. Yeah, there is an apartment building over there. It's on the other side of the district. It is.
It's a seniors condominium.
Yeah, it's right on Francis Street, I think.
It is, and
think it's up
it's
Francis
not
Street.
visible from the tourist area of the town. It's hidden by the curve of the lake and trees.
Yeah, you can't see it. It is, it's 3 stories plus that kind of lower half story. If you want to see what it looks like, here it's sort of under construction. Hold on. Good old Google Maps. So this was obviously not yesterday, but that's what it looks like. So it's 3 stories up, and then it's got that kind of 1 story downstairs. So it's
That's the parking down there, but they've at least tried to fit it in with the gabling and the color of the bricks and whatever.
And the stone foundation.
Yeah. So it fits the viewscape a little bit better, but you don't really see it unless you go to the beach. Nor does it stick up above the things that are There, you would have to take that arrow up the street.
Yeah, so what's around here? Some people. There's the beach.
That's the beach.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
if you go up here, there are those sorts of houses. That
Yeah.
that kind of, lots of that
That's-
kind of.
In behind Maryborough.
Yeah, Maryborough is just around.
Down. And that building on that we just looked at, I think it's complete now, isn't it?
It is.
It is, yeah, you can see it in the video. If at some point, oops, am I on mute here? Nope. If you go to the Finland Lakes Club website, they have a little video and you can see what it actually looks like from the water.
Here, I think I found it here.
Yeah, Emily's got it.
So here's the little video Anne's talking about. This is the one you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the site itself. This is actually very informative. So you can see what's actually on the site right now, which apparently are some machines. And then it goes out to the lake. So this is kind of where it is. And then it pans back. And I'm just gonna move my mouse. So the apartment building is over here. Maryborough is right over here, which is moving quickly.
Okay.
And
You
then
can see that whole area focuses on that side.
Ooh. We'll watch it again. Okay. Oh, sorry, Anne, did I cut you off there?
No, I was just using it for comparison to get an idea of what the height would look like with trees around it, of how high it would actually maybe stick up. Because if it's 5 and that's 3.5.
Pretty tall.
It will stick up and be quite prominent on the viewscape from Oak Street and Water Street and the island.
And you said the original proposal was for 3-story. It was 2-story shorter, and then it was amended to a taller structure. Was that?
I did not say what stories it was. There were less buildings on the site.
Oh, less buildings.
All of
on
a
the site.
sudden,
Okay.
there are more.
All right.
Okay, so does anybody have any more comments on that?
No.
So what the recommendation on this one again is, it's the same as the other one, to accept the report and then also for comments to be provided to planning staff through the chair. It's the same recommendation as the other report.
So can we have a mover?
I so move.
Thanks, Bill. Seconder? Ian?
Sure.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Favor.
Aye.
Yay.
Ron?
Yes.
Okay.
Favor.
Thank you. It was unanimously passed.
Right.
So the subcommittee updates, the outreach subcommittee.
So the outreach subcommittee is basically doors open in the Heritage Wards, which we haven't done any planning on yet. And I think
Report
Ian,
accepted.
Ian and I are going to have a conversation about doors open shortly to talk about next steps. And I think maybe in February or March, we should start thinking about the Osprey Heritage Awards once we kind of know what's going to happen next in the world.
Hopefully. Okay, the Hcd Study Subcommittee. We have in fact had a meeting.
Yes, and I've attached the sort of the summary minutes from that meeting to this, so people who aren't on the subcommittee can have a read through those. Basically where we're at is a lot of things are paused because of the pandemic, and we were going to start doing the property inventorying and surveying as our next step. So Ian, Rob, Athel, Jim, Bill, and I were going to go out and do it. Just so everyone has kind of an update where we're at in terms of city stuff, is since we're all supposed to stay at home now, we should be putting a pause on that. I've requested some direction from on high, so from management in terms of what we can do on site visits during the lockdown, and what we should be doing so we can get some concrete direction. I haven't received that yet. I talked to Rebecca about that today and she's like, I have no idea. So
I recommend that we get a 6-foot pole for each team and each member hold on to one end of the 6-foot pole throughout the whole exercise.
After sanitizing their hands.
Yes, of course.
that's right. We might have to do that, but I'll just wait for some direction and I'll let everybody on the surveying teams know kind of what we're gonna do. I think we're just gonna have to play it by ear with this one, but we'll get it done.
We had
It looks
talked
like we're on
about,
hold for 28 days.
yeah, we had talked about the fact that we could actually do some preliminary work on Google Streetscape
Yes.
and Google Earth. And it's amazing the number of times that Emily's actually put it up on the screen, actually, and even earlier, that kind of a thing. We can actually zoom in and see that. And then when we are able to do the walkabout, we can go in and do our final verification, which would be a lot quicker. Which means, and I'm delighted because that means that I can actually work on this and drink beer at the same time.
Yeah, you can't do that out on the street. I think that's
Yeah,
I think
from you know, on Google Streetscape though I can.
that's right. Yeah, which is nice. I think that's the best thing for our inventorying teams to do is just to do some preliminary work on Google Street View. And once we can get out there and actually do it, then to do it.
I think so. We can get a lot done and then go right through. Can I ask a question about that? Mike Sloboda, I bumped into him in the grocery store the other day, and he's been inquiring a little bit about this area too. Is there anything wrong with me consulting him and getting his opinion on some of this?
Nope. Go ahead.
So as a volunteer, he's okay to contribute or do that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the whole study is pretty much volunteer run. So anyone who has information can contribute.
Yeah, he's prolific, and I just thought he usually has picks up on other details. I'm sure that you know, Athel, who I'm partnered with, has got a wonderful knowledge of this as well. But I started thinking, and depending on who else comes on board from the interviews, maybe we could even fit in an additional team if it was needed.
Yeah, lots of people. Whoever wants to help out can help out. It's all
Okay,
it's all very relaxed.
Yes. We would welcome any person who wanted to join our team, especially if they had a camera.
Oh, I'll take care of that.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Can we move on now to the January 4th, 2021 subcommittee meeting minutes? They're attached. Are they, Emily?
Yeah. So that's just a summary of what we talked about at our meeting last week.
So would you like them to be officially voted on? Or you're just submitting them because they're a subcommittee?
They're just there for information.
Fine, thank you. The sign subcommittee. I can report that the sign subcommittee has had a meeting. We walked around on a very cold December day. And we are in the process of taking photographs of signs that are non-conforming. And especially ones that have just been put up recently, like the beautiful addition to Kent Street of the Gong Dong shop.
Bong and Dong.
What is it?
The dog
Bong and the Dong or something, whatever
Yeah,
that means.
it was Pong and Dong or something very attractive.
Ping pong.
So there will be a report to this committee when we get the photographs together. And then we would be happy to design some, what shall we say, protocols for the development of signs, which could be given to new business owners and help them along on their application for a permit. Because we find that most of these had no permit. They just appeared.
Can I comment? Deborah had pulled something together, and I'm pretty sure it was circulated to all the businesses. I think she, at one point in time, handed them out in person. I think the BIA was supportive as well, and I got the impression that most of these businesses have been provided with this material before. Have we got a copy to look at? Are we able to use something in the meantime? We've still got a valid bylaw. It's just it hasn't been you know, able to be enforced, is my understanding. So
Yes, so I've heard that document from Deborah exists, but I have never seen it. I have no idea what it looks like, where she saved it. I do know it exists somewhere, but I don't have it.
As a
I may have
building
it on
owner, do
file.
you have it? Do you have it, Jim?
Yeah, I believe I do have it on file, and I can pretty much guarantee that it was circulated. She put a lot of effort into that. It's just, we just haven't had the level of cooperation. And once one person cheats, then the other one sees an opportunity to do it, especially if there's no enforcement or follow up on that. So
Could you find that? Could you find it and bring it to the next subcommittee meeting?
Absolutely, I will do that. And can I provide a bit of an update on what I'm doing in that regard as well? I was very appreciative of the walkabout, and you saw some pretty graphic and in-person examples. I have photos throughout that period, but I have it on a hard drive. So I'm starting to go through the hard drive and try and pull some down. It'll have dates and times, and you'll see just the history of you know, how this unfolded. I've pretty much got it all documented, or most of it. So that is the next thing. I was hoping I could get it done, but my life has been wild the last year, and just up to Christmas, I finally got my daughter moved, got everything straightened away in my world, and now I'm starting to come into some time so that I can actually move on this. And I do want to prioritize this, and there are people that want me to prioritize this as well from the downtown. So I will keep going on that. I have nothing as well. I only got what was sent to me immediately, you know, as far as our Bong and Dong store there. Now, my understanding is that was reported to bylaw enforcement because they didn't get a permit. What happens there?
I'll give you the update on what's going on with the Bong and Dong. So, sorry. So we received a complaint, both bylaw, building, and myself, we all received complaints about it. So what's going on right now is we're working with the owners. They have to take it down, but before they take it down, we're going through a process with them so that they can put something up when they take it down, so they don't have a business without a sign. So they've just sent in an application that I haven't looked at yet for some new signage on that. So we are going to be working with them, and those signs are coming down.
So, and we'll be using our Streetscape facade guidelines as a guideline. And if I can come up with this document that Deborah came up with, would that be useful to?
Sure. Yeah, that would be great.
At least it gives them something to work off. But I think the Streetscape, you know, just design guidelines would at least give them some parameters there as to what they do. And I understand you said that the wording can't be changed because that's
their business name.
All right, may we move?
Thank you for that, Emily. I really appreciate that. Some action on this. People will be pleased.
Thank you. Can we move on now to correspondence? Is there any, Emily?
No, nothing.
There being none, can we move on to new business?
Yeah, so I'll give some updates. So the first thing that I had on new business was about new members. So some of you might notice Dorothy and Joan and Mike are not with us. Well, everyone knows that Mike resigned a while ago. Dorothy and Joan's terms expired at the end of 2020, and they chose not to reply to the committee. So we don't have them with us anymore, which is too bad. But we advertised in the fall. I guess the clerk's office does it in October. Advertise for new positions. So we are going to be having new members join us probably at our February meeting. They have to go to council for approval. So they'll go on the 28th of January. And then once those appointments are approved by council, we can release the names of our new members, which is great. So we have 4 vacant positions right now. 3 of them are members of the public. So just whoever wants to be on the committee kind of positions. And the 4th one is a representative for the Oak Street Heritage Conservation District. So at the moment we are making recommendation to fill the 3 positions for members of the public. There's no one for the Oak Street Heritage Conservation District because we didn't get an application for that position.
I will be speaking to the gentleman who told me he was interested, and he has a business and a home on Oak Street.
That's great. So just so everyone knows how the process works in case they do know people who want to be on the committee for that sort of thing. The positions are advertised again in October. So they're only advertised once each year and usually done for about 3 or 4 weeks or so. They're advertising Kawartha Lakes this week, I believe, and also on the website. So the advertisement for that position will come up again in October of this year.
Can they not join before that time if they wish to send in application?
No, they have to wait till the applications are open.
Okay.
And is that a hard and fast rule? If, for instance, this individual from Finland did not want to step up, is there not another mechanism by which we could use that space? I don't know. It just seems a shame to have a space, vacant and not be able to utilize it, looking at the amount of work that we have to do as a committee.
The way to do that would be to amend the committee's terms of reference. It may be, given that we're going to be designating another conservation district, hopefully in the next couple of years, and hopefully several more on from that. It'd be great to have, 5 or 6 conservation districts. Having reps from conservation districts on the committee is kind of annoying, actually, in terms of filling the committee and having people in those positions. So the committee may want to look at amending its terms of reference to get rid of the conservation district reps and just have 11 members of the public plus the council rep.
It would be my hope that we as a committee would be courting. We've got the different wards now. I don't think it's going to go back to the 16 wards. It'll probably stay to the 8. I would love to have representation from each area of the city on there. And if we could encourage them to find each area to find their champions. I agree with you. This hasn't worked. I don't think we've ever had anybody from Finland really, step up in this process. And I'm surprised and frustrated with that a little bit. The other point, if I could if you could, it's great that it's out there on the website, and it's great that, it was maybe advertised. I missed it this time. And I feel badly because even when we were talking the other night, I thought there still might be a couple of vacancies. And I did actually come up with a couple of candidates, none of who had seen the advertising. Is there a way that you could, we could make a habit of just alerting the committee that's going to be going? It's not a criticism, it's just going forward. Both of the individuals that came up, and I heard from another one today, I have experience that would benefit. I don't know if the people coming forward have experience or whether they're just generally interested. We'll take whoever and we'll help them learn and groom them, and you get some fantastic people out of that. But because of the circumstances right now, we're going to miss out on 2 very, very good people that would have stepped up readily.
Yeah,
it's been approved, and I think they would have been. Pardon me, sorry?
It's easy for me to circulate that in the fall. I can just send an email around to everybody when that advertisement is out.
Yeah, their feelings aren't going to be hurt, but I'm just thinking it would have been a wonder. Next October, I think you'd be very surprised and pleased if these individuals are still willing to step up.
Yeah, if the committee does want to think about making an amendment to its terms of reference, that's certainly something we can entertain to get rid of those Hcd reps if that's something you want to do. But if that's the committee's direction to do that one way or the other.
So could we put that on the next agenda for discussion, Emily, about amending our terms of reference?
Yep.
Because I think it's important.
I agree.
And one thing I'd like to say is in the future, it would be nice to notify the committee, and I'll make sure the committee knows if I know of anyone who leaves the committee and the position available. Because I've been on committees before and I've never seen anybody leave, as most appointments I'm aware of are for the term of the council that appoints you.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows kind of how this committee works, it's really, really awkward with the appointments. So our terms of reference have now been amended so that people's appointments either end at the half term or full term of council. And when I'm putting the recommendations forward to council, I'm recommending that people go to the full term of council. But at the moment, we have a whole bunch of people who came onto the committee before those terms of reference were amended. So everybody has these weird different times when their terms end, and some people's end at the end of this year, some people's end at the end of last year. It's really, really awkward, just because everybody seems to have a different term length. So the last time the terms of reference were amended, I think they switched it around. So it was either 2 or 4 year terms to bring it in line with the midterm or full term of council. And I would like to bring it in line so that everyone goes the full term of council, just so it's less awkward in terms of who's leaving and who isn't. But that's why that's the case. It's really awkward, but it is.
So what does that do in case we lose 3 before the full term? Are we free to actually select new individuals, or does that remain vacant? What does that do to quorum?
So if you quit tomorrow, for example, we could advertise for your position. You
could?
Yes. I mean, if you quit in like August, we're not going to advertise for your position until October because it would, but if somebody quits, we can advertise and fill the position for the remainder of their term.
I'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Yeah. Not that I'm telling you to quit, but if you want to
be a don't you dare.
All right. Okay. I'm just quite curious though. So if somebody, you're saying, well, let's revisit next October, but if we're going full term, would that be a possibility? If somebody quits in the meantime, we can open up that opportunity for next October. Is that correct?
So what would happen is, so if once again, if you quit tomorrow, what we would do is the clerk's office would put out an advertisement to advertise for somebody to fill the vacant position until the end of the next council term. So that would be 2022.
So they'd fill out the rest of the term.
They'd fill out the rest of the term. And as people's appointments end and they're reappointed, I'm trying to line everything up so that everybody ends at the same time.
I got that part. Yeah. Okay.
I think
thank you.
most people are now ending at 2022, but not everybody. We'll get there eventually.
It was messy. It was confusing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other items of new business?
I had to leave to plug in my computer. Did we pass a motion to thank Joan and Dorothy and send them a nice letter saying, thanks for your help?
I think that we should do that, and you can make that motion, Bill.
Okay, I move that we pass a motion to thank Dorothy and Joan for their participation on the committee, and have the chair send a letter to that effect. If Emily will prepare the same.
Yep.
I would like to also add to that a letter thanking Bill for the many years he's chaired this committee. So do I have someone who will move that?
I will move that.
It's moved by Bill. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
In favor.
Yay.
I can't vote.
Unanimously approved with Bill declining. So there's only one other item of other business that I'd like to talk about and bring up, and that is we made a report back to the architect asking for the material that the armory door was going to be made out of. And then we all replied that we would prefer it to be wood. I stated that I want it to be wood. Have we heard anything back about what the material for that door is going to be?
This is a very good question. I'm trying to remember what happened. Did Rod get back to me? I think he did. And I think he said yes, that they would work with the architect to make that happen.
Could we check that for sure, Emily?
Yeah, let me check that. If you don't mind, I'll check after the meeting and I'll let everybody know what came out of that conversation.
Thank you very much.
I still had one other business item. It was the new street signs for downtown Lindsay.
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to share my screen. Where are they? There they are. So I finally got a mock-up from the street sign people, and they've provided a few different options. So these are the options they provided. So we had talked about either doing, the color is a bit funky on my computer. That's supposed to be more of a navy on the blue, but anyways. So they've given us 4 different options in the 2 colors. I think this committee had talked about preferring the burgundy. but I got them to do it in both colors just so we could see it. So there's the burgundy and the blue that say downtown Lindsay, and then the burgundy and the blue that say downtown Lindsay 1857. So I was just bringing these to the committee to see what your preference was.
So what shows in brown on my screen is burgundy.
It's burgundy, yeah, kind of maroon burgundy. So they're, in case the color in your computer is also kind of funky, there's a burgundy / maroon, kind of that sort of color, and then there's a dark blue navy color as well.
I'm not seeing them at all, but I reviewed them from your email and I quite like the burgundy.
I like the color. The only suggestion I would have is the two on the bottom. Downtown Lindsay up in the upper quadrant, I guess, looks a little busy up there, and my preference would be to see downtown Lindsay in 1857 reversed. So the date is up at the top and the downtown Lindsay is at the bottom, but maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. I just think downtown Lindsay on the two lines in the upper portion there looks a little cluttered. Otherwise they're nice.
I think I like the one with the number on it. I think the number is important.
So do I. So the one that I was thinking is the one that I see as brown, but is burgundy, that says downtown Lindsay, Cambridge Street North, 1857. That's the one I prefer.
I would agree with Athol. Now, to Ian's point, if we reverse the number and the downtown Lindsay, I still think it would be the best choice.
Yes.
Okay.
Ian, what made it too busy? Where before reversing it, what made it look too busy? Just was there an element?
So, for example, it's interesting that this is the example before us is Cambridge Street North, which is not technically in downtown Lindsay. I think if it simply said 1857 and Lindsay, most people would understand what it's about. And if these signs are mostly going to populate the downtown core, I think removing the word downtown would make it look less busy. I think simply saying Lindsay 1857, but one or the other, but I don't think the three lines there is really necessary.
Did everybody understand that we're removing the downtown from it?
That's just
yes, and I can live with that easier than I can live with 1857 Cambridge Street, downtown Lindsay. Yeah. Because we had some confusion when we made these signs in another location that people thought it was the number of the address of the building that it was on.
Interesting.
Okay, so we're looking at Lindsay at the top and 1857 at the bottom, correct?
That would be my preference.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's right.
I would accept that.
I'd be fine with that too. It does look a little busy. That is a comment, and I think they're pretty much going to know they're in the downtown if they're standing there or driving through it.
Okay, that sounds good. And in terms of spacing, I got them to do Cambridge Street because I'm pretty sure it's the longest name in the downtown to make sure that it didn't look crowded on the street signs, and I think that's okay.
And it's part of the Heritage District, sure. It's considered downtown, so.
It's in the district. So what I have here is, so Lindsay on the top, street name in the middle, 1857 on the bottom, and burgundy is the preferred color.
That is what I've heard.
Right.
So can I have someone make a motion that that's our choice?
I'll motion.
Thanks, Ann. May I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Ian, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
We've created a monster. Ann's making all the motions now. Look at her go. So,
You can hear me now that when we were doing half of them in the city hall and me at home on my little computer, nobody could hear or see me.
You missed out on a lot that you're making up for. That's good. I got it. Would there be any possibility of me just touching on one more thing? It involves involves the reconstruction in the center area, the center block, in the Heritage District.
Sure.
Okay. In the other district, they photographed that the entire process. So there's probably 30,000, 40,000 pictures, photos that they had promised to release to us and share with us, mapping that, including all their discoveries under the ground, which none of were retained. They were thrown in trash bins and waste bins and trucked away, including the brick from the storm sewer. There were chunks of pipe with old post hammered into it. In front of IDA, apparently they did find an old fire pit lined with cedar poles and probably parging like a cistern. And then they actually found an old, what looked like a fire pump in the very bottom of the pit, none of which was salvaged. Now, my understanding is I brought that up during the public consultations, and they had promised SEMA, the four people that handled the process there, said that they would, in fact, make an effort to preserve this history, certainly to document it. You know what? I think the story is going to be pretty much the same potentially for that center block. It'd be a shame to lose more history if we could salvage even a piece of that, unique pieces. But I'd certainly like at a minimum to be able to retrieve the thousands and thousands of photos and get them to Emily so we could keep them on file. This is history unfolding as we have it, and it's dredging up more history. I don't know whether you have the capacity to accommodate 30 or 40,000 pictures, but I can, when they had just early on in, they had a representative named Drew for SEMA, and he had promised these, and he'd showed me some photos at the time, certainly of the sanitary sewer. It was 1880s, and it was like it was installed the week before. None of it was salvaged. We've lost all that brick that we could have used for repairing the buildings. I would like to avoid it again. So I don't know how to go about this. BIA doesn't seem all that interested in it. So what do you recommend, Emily?
Well, in terms of the photos, I can probably get those fairly easily. I'll just talk to engineering because I'm sure they have access to them, and I'll throw them on a hard drive. That's pretty straightforward. In terms of salvaging stuff, that might be a little bit more challenging. I can chat with engineering about it. That's probably the best thing to do. Or
like artifacts. I was led to believe that some things did find their way to St. David Street, the depot there. I don't know if there's some still under the snow, but it might be worth inquiring about that as well. I did inquire with SEMA myself at one point, and they said that they were having server problems, and but they never got back to me about any kind of photos or anything. So I turned that over to you. Sorry, I should have brought that up earlier, but it'd be an amazing photographic record.
yeah, I should be able to get those fairly easily. I'll just coordinate through Corby because he will know the contact, and I'll just get them to toss them on a hard drive.
Fantastic.
One of the things we could ask engineering to do is in future, if there are any, what shall I say, retrievable, archivable objects, such as you said there was a fire hydrant or something down
Or
there.
there was a section of pipe, and I don't know, primitive but functional. And what they had done is shaved a cedar pole and hammered it in, and that was literally stopping the sewage from pouring out the end of this old pipe. I know that there's potential for them to find sections of wooden sewer pipe. That would be interesting to hold on to. I'd recommend we put it in Rob's backyard for a while, after it's dug up, and not mine. But anyway, these are artifacts. When I mentioned this to Bill in a conversation, he appropriately said, well, whatever that pump is in the bottom, we should have been able to identify it. Maybe it would have belonged in a museum, depending on the vintage. We lose that opportunity when these folks are racing along there. Not a criticism, it's an observation. Well, maybe a criticism, because they did say they were going to call to our attention the artifacts, anything they found of interest. But even that material, I have a brick mason that would gladly, if they dumped them in a pile or put them in a dump truck and then dumped them on his property, he would gladly have taken those bricks, and he uses those to repair our buildings downtown.
We ended up having a repository for any brick that was made in Newmarket because most of the homes were made of this brick. So we were able to give people a brick to replace broken or spalled bricks in their home.
I salvaged 3 or 4. They were definitely made in Lindsay down in the Angeline Street pit.
Yes.
So we've lost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pristine brick. It literally looked like they had just built this the week before. This is a tremendous oversight, and I'd rather not see it repeated if we could avoid it. It's the spirit of cooperation.
So perhaps, Emily, you could have that conversation and see if there's anything we can do about photographic and artifact retrieval.
Yes, I can do that.
And salvage material, if that's a possibility.
Yep.
Unless there's any kind of law preventing it, I've got tons of land. You know, I'd even provide a spot where they could dump it if they want to. But I think my brick mason would gladly, and he's right in Lindsay. He would welcome anything that they could deliver, and he would stack them and preserve them for future use in restoration in the downtown.
Okay, I will
Thank
have
you.
that conversation with engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you. So may I talk about next meeting, Emily?
Yep.
So our next meeting will be,
February 4th is the date we had on our meeting
our
schedule.
plan, yes,
Yes, February 4th.
at 5 o'clock
Yeah,
by Zoom.
it'll be by Zoom. Yeah, I think we might be on Zoom for the next couple of months.
All right. So may I entertain a motion for adjournment?
Go for it, Ann.
A question first.
Oh,
Yes.
I just wanted to know with Ron, did you talk to anybody about the old cabins?
We were talking about it this afternoon with Bill there. I've been in touch with the MP's Jamie Schmale's office, and there was a dedicated person that was to talk to Parks Canada. So like I'm on it. I'm trying to get a hold of them. I left another message and I've emailed them, and I'm trying to get a I've got a contact from Parks Canada, like in Ashburnham, in Peterborough, but I've had this person from Salvage Kings. She keeps emailing me, and I haven't responded back to her last time, but they want to come out, but they're not. But I'm trying, and like to get a hold of Parks Canada. I don't think they're going to do any demolishing of it. I can't see them doing that. But I'm hoping I can get. We're hoping to actually get there, like to walk down there. Like I'm trying to find a pathway in Pickerel Point to get there on foot. And Bill and I were going to have a walk, try and find it from there.
you need a hovercraft.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I
Time of
believe that there were garages there, so there must have been some way to get there in a vehicle.
Yeah, must have been. Yeah, I think around Pleasant or Pickerel Point, around there somewhere to get there.
Actually, Ann,
basically-
did you not say that you had a contact, that dealt with the waterways or something?
I do, through the Trail Town Committee and Bob Cajun. I have a couple. So maybe Ron, if you wanted to, we don't need to take up
Yeah,
all
we
of
can talk.
it.
Yeah, okay.
That would be good. Can I offer one more suggestion? It was of note to me. I reread that information, and the Conservation Authority had signed off on it, and that's significant because they're saying, well, it's there was, I don't know, somehow it had pre-existed or it was grandfathered in, and then it wasn't anything that they were going to do. Would the college be interested in attaining these buildings or maintaining them as an official study center for some of their work? They're out there doing this kind of thing all the time. In fact, out by the old mill here in Lindsay, they're responsible for what they have floating out there outside the old mill. And I just thought, could that be a potential partnership? Does anybody know anybody at the college? A study center.
Yeah, no, I don't know anybody specifically, but I could certainly inquire about it. Yeah, an idea.
Okay.
For a project.
We have some contacts with the college in Finland Falls for our civic holiday weekend committee. So I could probably find you the contact for the college.
Okay.
So may I have a motion for adjournment?
Make it a clean sweep, Ann.
Thank you. Moved by Ann. thank you all very much for your attendance, and hopefully we'll see you on some subcommittee or other prior to the next meeting.
Oh, wait,
Thank
hold
you so
on.
much.
We need a seconder for the adjournment.
Do you need a seconder for adjournment?
We do, unfortunately.
Yeah, Rob's jumping up here too.
Rob, okay. It's Rob.
All right.
Being a
Thank
fish.
you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Emily.
Okay.
We'll be in
Good night,
touch
everybody.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll touch base tomorrow.
Good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.